Showtime. Man, back at you. Let's work.
Okay. Alright, quiet down, guys. Alright, so essentially today's entire class is devoted to sneaker design. Some of you guys maybe haven't seen throughout this entire course because we've been covering like culture and like history for the most part. And so we're actually going to have two parts of this course, of the science class. The first part is going to be pretty much an introduction to like footwear design and Carnegie Mellon's own like mission statement in the school of design. And that's going to be given by our own like industrial designer at Carnegie Mellon, Dylan Patrick. And then after that, I don't know what that's oh, that's up with sleep. Anyway, wait this up. Okay. So essentially, after that, I'm going to be introducing Jeremy Sawi, the designer from Reebok that we've been talking about, and he's going to do his thing. So, all right. So first is Dylan Patrick. This is industrial designer at Carnegie Mellon University. So, sweet.
Thank you. I don't want to take too much time. I'm sure Jeremy has a kick-ass presentation for you guys, so I'll try to make it quick. But pretty much what I'm going to be talking about is our very own school of industrial design, kind of how we think, how we're trained to think, and how our school philosophy is kind of applied to sneaker design, trying to tie into the class. So, what is industrial design? A lot of you guys are not designers. I know we have two here. Three designers out of the entire class. So a lot of you guys probably don't know what we're all about. Industrial design, if you think about it, is really just like the ultimate interdisciplinary discipline because it's made up of a little bit of everything. Essentially what we do is we make things that help people, if you want to simplify it down. And that ties in these four different disciplines throughout CMU. There are more that are left out. You have the fine arts component, because anytime you're designing products, it has to look good. So you have that visual aesthetic, and the fine arts creativity definitely plays into that. The psychology is huge. We have any psych majors here? Yeah, nice. So psychology, you're learning how people think, and you're understanding how people think. And anytime you are a designer and you're designing for somebody, you have to know how your consumer is going to think. You can't design a product for somebody that you don't know anything about. So the understanding of the people that you're designing for is huge. Engineering, I know we have engineers in here. A few, bunch. Engineering is also pretty critical because, going back to the fine arts, you can make something look really, really pretty, but if it doesn't actually work, then what's the point? You're just kind of doing it for nothing. So, as industrial designers, you have to be able to make things look good, but at the same time, you have to have some understanding of how these things actually work. And on the business side, when it gets down to it, nobody's really a designer because they love it that much. At the end of the day, it pays the bills. So, it's about selling units, making money. So, TEP is kind of tied into it as well. Here's the School of Design mission statement here. At Carnegie Mellon School of Design, we believe design to be a humanistic discipline. Talks about the art of conceiving, planning and shaping products, blah, 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 blah. Made to serve people, that's pretty crucial. Because everything we do is about helping people out. If you keep on reading down, it starts talking about things like human experience and sustainability, which are two things that I'm also briefly going to touch on in this little short intro I got. So really what this all sums up is that industrial design is problem solving. That's really what it is. Anytime you design a product, you design that product to solve a problem that you see with, I don't know, humanity, footwear that's out there, or a challenge you just want to meet. So that's really what it breaks down to. I'll give you a footwear example of that. 2008, Nike came out with the Hyperdunk. It was supposed to be like their top-of-the-line shoe. They dropped it just in time for the Beijing Olympics. And many people may look at this at face value and be like, oh, well, they just put this out to look good. They just wanted another nice-looking sneaker out there. But here at the School of Design, we kind of look past that, and we're looking at it and trying to analyze it. What kind of problem were they trying to address? There's always more to it. So when you think about this shoe, you may think it's just another basketball shoe, but at the end of the day, the designers are probably thinking, all right, our problem is, we're trying to challenge people's perceptions of what it means to be a light basketball sneaker. I'm not sure what the lightest sneaker on the market was before this came out, but this completely blew it away, by at least probably 3 or 4 ounces. I think when this dropped, they had like some crazy lunar foam in there that was using like NASA space shuttles, really innovative technologies, and they were just challenging people's perceptions of what a good basketball sneaker is. So that was the problem that they were trying to address. And then this recently got blown out of the water by Adidas' Crazy Light, which is like 9.8 ounces or 9.7, something crazy like that. So the design process is really just a matter of just finding problems, finding challenges, and just trying to meet these challenges as best you can to help people out. In the case of Nike, it's helping people perform better on the court. You know, the better sneaker you have, chances are it's going to help you out become a better athlete. So that kind of ties in. Another big thing is the product life cycle. The needed opportunity at the top is kind of what I was talking about with the problem or challenge you're trying to solve. Then you go through the concept development, production. The deployment is when it like hits the market. And then this on this side is kind of what happens once the person actually has the product in their house after they bought it. And I'll give you another sneaker example here. Here at the CMU School of Design, Industrial Design, we're taught to understand and try and encompass the entire product life cycle. And I'm not just talking about here, you know, when you see a shoe in Foot Locker, if we're designing products, you're not just designing for this instance here when you see a new shoe on the wall, right? Because people have to buy the shoes, and you also have to design not for their impulse buy, very close to my man Ken John, but you also have to design for their experience. You know, how's this thing going to hold up once they actually bought it? So you're responsible for selling the product to some extent, and then you're also responsible for what happens once they bought it. How's it going to hold up? How's it going to perform? What kind of experience are they going to have with it? Are they going to enjoy it? So these are all things that industrial designers can take into consideration. And then getting all the way around, going 360, you have to sell the product, you have to make it hold up. And then you're also kind of responsible to some extent about what happens when your product dies. I don't know if you guys have ever seen shoes talk, like when the upper and the outsole become so worn down, they're like flopping, and your toes are hanging out. Yeah, you're kind of responsible for that. Like, what are you going to do? Are you just going to throw these things away, or are you going to recycle it? And that's when the whole sustainability thing kind of comes into it and ties into it. And that's also huge. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie WALL-E. I was back home last week for spring break, watched this movie with my younger brother, and this is my first time seeing it. WALL-E, for those of you guys that haven't seen it, you've seen it.
No.
He's a robot that moves trash, and this is in a future down the line, 200, 300 years, where the earth is filled up with garbage. There's just so much stuff being thrown away. And it's filled up to the point where the skyscrapers are all covered, and the people actually have to get up and leave the planet because there's no room to live anymore. And I think it's kind of crazy. I'm not saying that we're getting to this point, it's a little extreme, but going back to the whole sustainability thing, if every product we design, if every shoe we design is just going to be thrown away at the end of its life cycle, this reality may not be that far off at the end of the day. So there's some responsibility, at least we believe, that you have to create a product that can give back in some way, maybe lead into the creation of new products. Here I have Gaston Stadium. I'm sure you guys have either been on this field or on some turf field before in your life. And what they're doing now is that a lot of sneakers are being used at the end of their life cycle, chopped up, and they're being used to make the turf or fields. So that's kind of getting into the whole sustainable design thing. If somebody were to say that sustainable design is making something completely new from something completely worn down, that's kind of unrealistic. It can't really happen. You can't make a brand new sneaker from a tattered old sneaker, but you can do cool things like this. And when a sneaker becomes too worn down for you to use for basketball or soccer or football, or whatever it may be, the idea, the sustainable idea that that dying product can kind of give birth to new products is pretty cool. And the sustainability can also start on the front end. That was like when a product's dying, how it can lead to seeding up new products. But then you have things like this, the New Sky, which New Balance came out with, I think, last year. And this is a shoe that actually uses sustainable materials, uses recycled materials from other products. So rather than have this sneaker turn into something else at the end of its life cycle, something else, in this case water bottles, is turning into a sneaker. And I think it's a pretty cool process. I was reading up a little bit about it. It takes 8 bottles of water to make one sneaker, which is, I think, a pretty cool turnaround. They like crush the plastic bottles up and down, make fibers out of the plastic bottles that are just crushed up, and actually you're able to weave uppers for sneakers with that.
Yeah, just make one pair for a shoe.
8 is pair. Yeah. So no, I think this is a pretty dope idea, the whole sustainability thing. So that's kind of just summing up what we're about here at CMU, what we're taught, how we're taught to think in the industrial design program. I don't want to take too long. I have time for some questions.
Yeah, sure.
You guys.
Any other questions for Dylan?
Any like projects that you use your experience on?
Use this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can give you an example. Just like freshman year, we have a like human experience class, and one of the projects we had was it ended up being to create a system to kind of recycle like cigarette butts on CMU's campus. because like they have like I don't even know what you call them, but like the pillars that are set up for people to throw them away. But nobody ever does. Like people go out and smoke near them and they'll throw them on the ground next to it. So just things like that, trying to come up with solutions to solve problems like that. The solution that we came up with, I don't think I have it on this computer, but it was pretty much just like, it was a system, not actually an actual product, but it was a system that kind of had like a cash incentive. It was a few cents you get back. So when you put the cigarette butt in the machine, you can swipe your Internship ID and you get that money back on your card. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's not with plastic bottles. If you return the plastic bottles, you get cents back on that. So just a little bit of a cash incentive we thought would kind of help people put the cigarette butt where it should be rather than just throw it to the ground. Because you have things that they never get cleaned up when they are on the ground. So just stuff like that. That's an example.
In Nike, how much like you obviously must do like a lot of prototyping, but for example, like I'm in architecture, so when we model stuff, we use like scrap materials to create models. But like I feel like for ID, material probably matters more. You have to deal with it.
Yeah.
In a prototype, so how do you do that?
Deal with it in terms of.
Well, like it seems like it would take a very elaborate process to like prototype a sneaker or something.
Gotcha.
You do stuff like that in ID. You prototype.
Not sneakers. I'm sure Jeremy can talk more about that. It's kind of rough here because we don't really have any sneaker products. But yeah, when we do have products or projects that end up turning into products, we are expected to prototype them. And depending on how complicated the solution is, sometimes professors want to see functional prototypes. Like, okay, if you say this can do that, make it do that. And that's kind of getting back to the engineering aspect of it. Because if you design a toy, a toy robot, and you say, all right, this can walk. All right, now make it walk. So when you get down to the prototyping, you can't just make it look good. You have to actually make it work too. But yeah, Jeremy can talk more about like sneaker prototyping and stuff like that. Expert.
Any other questions, guys? Cool. All right. Oh, go ahead.
Just like seeing like how does the ID compensate like how much do you learn about material? So material science, it looks like it plays a big part in ID. So is there like some overlap with some of the
It's not super expensive. We do have a class where they teach you about materials, and you have like material libraries and stuff like that. But for the most part, the way the projects that we have are kind of organized and set up, you learn about materials as you go. Say you have, a few years ago we had like a sponsored car project with like GM, and going into the project you may know nothing about car exteriors, you may know nothing about what cars are made of, but when you do your research for each project, it's kind of built into that. Like you just happen to do the research and you learn all about the materials as you go along. So it's not just like all of these like a process.
Cool. All right. So, go ahead. All right. So our next lecturer for the evening is Jimmy Selly. He's footwear designer at Reebok. So. Yeah.
How's everybody doing? Doing ready, guys. Yeah, he's gonna walk around with some business cards. Write your name on them. We'll put them in a hat in the class and post somebody's name and give a free shoe. So you get some free shoes.
You get the kinky color. What color? Like blue and orange. I never win like that. Yeah, I never won. I got my head. Alright.
Nope, that's not the
Wait, what do we pass? We need to.
Yeah, we'll collect these. Oh yeah, I didn't work Yeah, so fill those out, and then Maddie will come around and get those to you guys. So, there you go.
Alright, well, like I said, I am Jeremy Slee. I'm a footwear designer at Reebok. I'm just going to go through a couple sections, split this up into sections. First, give you a little bit of background about myself. I'm 25, oldest of 6. Designed shoes for a while. My logo is a platypus because I do a lot of different things. I'm not just a footwear designer. As you'll see throughout the presentation, I do a lot of different things. So yeah, you've seen platypus talking, that's me. Jeremy Slee's my name. This is I've been doing shoes for a while. Story behind me doing shoe design. I was in 6th grade, going to an AAU tournament in the back of my dad's Jeep Cherokee with my best friend. And I had some questions on him, like, looked at my best friend, like, yo, I could work for Reebok. I can make them better. Like, this is no good. I was really saying that. And so when I got the job, he was like, he called me up, like, yo, you remember you said that? But, so yeah, that's the story behind, there you go, me working for Reebok. So I started, really diving into it about 7th and 8th grade. High school, I used to just I got good grades, but throughout the class, I would literally just draw these note cards. These are my actual high school note cards. They're my shoes. That's it's just a weird, funny story. But yeah, I used to do that. So I was more or less pretty into shoes pretty early age. Then went to school at Case Western for my freshman year. Played basketball. Actually, I think I had 32 points against you guys. So I mean, not him, but he wasn't there yet, so don't worry about it. But anyway, I transferred out to Akron, so I played basketball at Akron. But when I got to Akron, they didn't have an ID program. Actually, in Case, I was doing pre-architecture. So I went to Akron, I did switch to graphics. But when I went to my foundation review, they were like, "Why do you have all these shoes in your review?" I'm like, "I want to own my own shoe company." They're like, "Oh, you can make your own curriculum, right?" So I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I helped make my own curriculum. And it ended up being a fashion, business, and graphics curriculum. So I kind of mashed up, Kent State's fashion program with a little bit of just random classes. Just so the good thing about it was in each class, the teachers actually let me do exactly what I wanted to do for shoes. So I had an illustration class, and they let me draw shoes all the time. So it was perfect. And then I played basketball for 3 other years. Graduated, so by the time I had really dove into the footwear design, I kind of realized that you're not going to get super wealthy off of footwear design. That's the truth. If anybody breaking anybody's heart, I'm sorry. Unless you own your own company, which is still a viable option, which I would like to do one day. But so instead, I do a lot of other things. So I'm a landlord. I own a couple properties. I try to do entrepreneurial endeavors on the side. You just got, my aunt always told me you have to have 3 sources of income at all times. So just keep that in mind, 3 sources of income at all times. Whether it's, it's save, stock, do something else. Because if you're just gonna, don't put all your eggs in one basket. That's the bottom line with that. But remember, the shoes are fun. So that's pretty much the basis of my background. How I got into this. Any questions about my background? How I got started in the industry. So, like I said, I went to Akron, and it wasn't known for its art program. I don't really know what it's known for, to tell you the truth. But that was LeBron James. But other than that, I didn't have a lot of access to big time internships. The Nike, Adidas, Reebok internships. I know you guys have an ID program. We probably have like all kinds of things. We have access to that type of stuff. I didn't even know where to start looking at. So what I would do, I would go and just look online and just find companies that I liked and kind of fit my style of design, and I'll just email them directly. Even if they're small companies, because the smaller the better chance you have emailing them and they actually email you back, because it's like 3 people in the company. So like for example, Veil Project was one designer. His name is Coleman Horn. He's worked for Nike, Timberland. He owns a couple companies. Sold one of his companies to Penguin. He's done everything. So he became like a mentor to me, just tell me how the business is and how to run your own business. And I actually did an interview with him that he had on his website for a while. But yeah, this is his brand called the Veil Project. He's got a couple brands, but this was his when I was doing this. It was the Veil Project. So he helped me out a lot. He liked my stuff a lot, but he didn't have an internship position, so he kind of just told me some good advice and gave me like information I needed. Then I found 100 Styles of Running, which is just 2 brothers, Chad Beerbaum and Evan Beerbaum, and it's but anyway, they're just 2 brothers. They do a lot of stuff I do at that time was like more hybrid, like casual / a little bit athletic, but not too athletic. So at that time, this was a good fit too. They actually brought me on as an intern / freelance designer. So we actually worked on we started working on Tough Dog. It was like a Damian Marley's brand at one time, and he wanted to do shoes, so we actually started working on that stuff. And did some 100 Styles of Running stuff as well. But at that time, it was right when the economy crashed, so it was like they just stopped everything at one point. And I was like, So all this time, my whole goal is just to have one shoe made. That's like my whole dream is to just get a shoe made and just get it over. But at this point, I'm having trouble. So finally, I got a real internship, which was boring yet lucrative, at Commuto Group. Commuto Group is a women's company. So Vince Commuto is one of the 3 founders of Nine West. So Nine West, they sold it for $3 billion. So each founder got $1 billion. So Vince Commuto took his $1 billion and created the Commuto Group, which is like 20 different brands within one brand. So we got like Vince Commuto, Tory Burch, Jessica Simpson, all these huge women's brands. And he created, it's got this all under this one group. So I went to work for them in Greenwich, Connecticut, just as an internship for like just a month and a half. It was so late and it was weird. But I lived with my aunt in New York, took a train to Greenwich every day. It was boring. I worked for a private label brand called Alex Marie, which is like a Dillard's 45 and up demographic shoe design. But what they liked about me was that I used a computer. A lot of women's brands still use just pencils and ink, and it's just like depressing a little bit. But it's so I got in there. They're like they would draw something, they mess up, they get white out, go copy it on the copier, bring it back, draw something. Like, okay. But so I was doing stuff on Illustrator really fast, and they liked it a whole lot. They're like, oh, this kid can do stuff so fast. Yeah. So I did that, and then they actually hired me freelance while I was still in school for the rest of my senior year, and they paid good. They paid in college it was like $40 an hour, and all I was doing was like taking their pencil drawn sketches and drawing them in Illustrator, like tracing on top of it. Okay. But I did a little bit of design, but it was more or less than that. Anyway, I did that for a while, and they decided to hire me. They said they were going to hire me right out of school. So it comes to be, it's March before I graduate. The March before I graduate, I had done some men's shoes that my boss had really liked a whole lot. They only did women's shoes, but he took them to the factory in Brazil, and they really liked the shoes. So they're like, okay, we'll make a pair. So I was like, oh, this is my chance. I finally get to make a shoe. So I get there, I did all the tech pack, which I'll show you what that is in a minute. All the spec drawings and all that stuff. Sent it to him. The next day, he says, I just got laid off. The line dropped. So I was like, what is going on? So like, all these times I've had to try to get these shoes made, I get so close and it's never worked out. But anyway, so I didn't end up going there after school. Actually, after that March, was back to square one. So I started searching on internet, found the Reebok apprenticeship, which is like a year-long postgraduate. You go in and you're pretty much a designer for a year. It's like a contract program. They sent a brief. They gave you a brief for whatever way you want it. This was my actual project. I wanted to do lifestyle, so this is kind of like that 100 styles and running stuff. It's like hybrid, like casual, yet a little bit sporty. So this is my project. Out of the 300 applicants, I was one of 12 for that apprentice class. This was we were the second class of apprentices. Second class of apprentices. This is my project. This is the low top version of it. So anyway, I went there for my apprenticeship in July. Oh, by the way, I know you guys love my presentation. Just because if I suck, I know my presentation. So when I got there, I was like, I'm still want to get a shoe made. That's the whole point, is I want to get a shoe made. So I'm like, all right, I'll do a shoe a day and see what happens. And one of the things the designers that are in here will notice that when you get to the firm, a lot of people like to be super secretive. And I didn't go to design school since my major was all over the place. It was like, when I came to this, everybody's like super secretive and nobody wants anybody to see anything. I don't know if that's how it is now. Is that how it is? Not so much, but when you get in corporate, people want to keep everything under wraps until it's time to show it. So, as an apprentice, we had like so say everybody had their little cubicles up and down the road. We were literally like at this table, like in the middle of the floor, just like sitting there, like in the wide open. So instead of like being super secretive, I put all my drawings like up on the walls so everyone could see them. So with doing that, it got a lot of people noticed it and started picking stuff on the line. Like, oh, we need this in the line. We need that in the line. So it got a lot of attention. Before me, the most of the apprentice that had the most shoes an apprentice had in line was only one. And I ended up having 9 as an apprentice. So the strategy worked. So these are just a couple of shoes that became real. That was the Tompkins, which was a DMX Micro. I mean, I go to mid and low. I like the Tompkins. This is the Royalton, which was another DMX Micro, part of the DMX Micro collection. Actually, the low version of it. It's the Risto. I don't make up the name. Well, none of these I do. Most of the time, this is good. The way they make a lot of the names up for us, at least, is our product manager will go and get a newspaper from like a local newspaper, and look at the box scores from the high school basketball games, and just like pick kids' names out. This is it works. It works. So that was the Aristo. This was the Almanto. So you'll see my evolution of like how my style has come. So this is like me as an apprentice. All these are like apprentice drawings. So the proportions were really bad. Like, I mean, you got them, but they're like really stylized, which a lot of people still do, which is fine. But you'll be able to see like the evolution of what I've learned since I've been there. So that was the Almanto. I like the Almanto a lot. Did a mid and a low of that. This is the Omni Run, which was this was almost an exercise to solve a problem of how can you add value to a classic runner without opening a mold for something. So what I did was take something that was already existing, which is the white TPU, which is a plastic piece from the Omni Light, which is a basketball shoe, the pump, and put it on a runner. So it's kind of like making using something to add value to something to make something new and cool. So they like that a whole lot. I think that might still be in stores. So it was a finish line for a while there. There it is. This was the Superion. Weird shoe. You look back at these things now and you're like, oh yeah. But alright. So I did that. And I ended up getting hired halfway through the apprenticeship into kids because that was the only position that was available at the time. So, but while I was in kids, I was still doing classics. Classics is our lifestyle category at Reebok. And today I do classics and Reebok. Classics and basketball. But while I was in kids, what you learn is, a lot. It's like trying to put everything on the kamikaze in this little bitty shoe that's like $50 cheaper than you need it to be. So what you do, you learn the tricks of the trade, like, okay, we can't use a plastic toe, we're gonna use a shiny synthetic, or, you know, if you look at a lot of the kids' shoes, kids kamikazes, the bottom, actually the inside bottom, which is the medial side, is, the inside is like a, it's not even like a hex piece, it's actually molded into the EVA, which is the foam. So like little things like that you learn, and then if you look at a lot of kids' shoes, like half of the shoe, the outside of the shoe, would be really good materials, and the inside would be shit. But it's like, that's the type of things you learn. But it helps when you need to work at, you need to, you know, when you're building an adult shoe, and you know you can get the same visual value by using something else that's cheaper. So, you know, that helped a lot doing that. So, yeah, while I was doing kids, I mean, kids in classics, so I did 4 kids shoes while I was in kids, but while I was in class, while I was doing both of them, I did the, I don't know if you've seen the Zig boot, which is like the cliffhanger. Seeing the kamikaze, I did that. I actually did kamikaze while I was an apprentice, so I had drawn it already, but that's that. And in terms of basketball, I just got moved into basketball like a month ago, and I was actually tasked with redoing the John Wall shoe for this year. So we do shoes a year and a half in advance. So came down to this. Foot Locker is the biggest retailer in the U.S. and the second biggest retailer in the world, right, for shoes. When they say they don't like something, that means you need to change it, because if they drop it, then you're not gonna make any money off of the shoe that you're making. So when Foot Locker says we don't like this John Wall shoe, you need to make a new one. You do whatever you can do or have to do to get it done. So what we had to do, we had to redo the shoe, fly out to Asia. I had just got back from Asia earlier, and I left January 3rd for 2.5 weeks. Came back for a week. This whole situation happened. Had to fly back out to another part of Asia, do the shoe in 3 days, and then take it to a Foot Locker meeting and sell them on the shoe. All within like this 2-week window. It was insane. But that's been my first experience with basketball. So, I mean, that's not bad for the first experience. It was stressful, but it wasn't. The result came out good, which I can't show you right now. You know, I got camera phones. So that's pretty much how I got started. Any questions on that? Going to my last section. Lastly, I'm going to talk about the design process. So, pre-season, we begin with sketches. Not a lot of people, well, I'm sketching on my iPad now. Most people are doing, you know, pencil sketches and whatnot. I think we're trying to switch all the way over to iPad. That's what's going to happen. Everybody's going to switch over to iPad and just sketching on iPad. But, so we're doing sketches. Then you might bring them into some line art, and then maybe some pretty renderings, like that. We do all this for this meeting called 25% design review. So this is pretty much taking all that brainstormed, proactive work from the preseason that all the designers are just doing at this one certain time, and get in a room, and the design directors and the heads of footwear and whatnot come to the room and say what they like, what they don't like, or, you know, if this theme is good for the entire category, or, you know, it's pretty much just, it's before things get so set in stone, this is a time where you can really try to push some of your ideas. So everybody likes this time period, because it's kind of like, you know, you get to try the crazy things that you've been thinking about all year. After 25%, you dive into the more structured part of the season, where it's brief handoffs. So brief handoffs are like, product managers talk to the regions and the merchandisers and get all the feedback from the Foot Lockers, you know, all the retailers across the world. You know, they need this, they need that, this, and this is trending and whatnot. And, you know, we need this many pair. So in the brief, the product managers will get all this information, put it into a document, and tell you, you know, exactly what the feel of the shoe needs to be, what the cost of it needs to be, what the FOB, which is the price that it's going to cost to get it all the way to the store. So it's called freight on board. So to get it on the ship and over to the retailer. The forecast, because you need at least a forecast of 20,000 pairs to make anything new in terms of an upper. So an upper is the top of the shoe, and this is the bottom, the tooling. Tooling is the bottom of the shoe. So to get into to do any shoe, to take any shoe and put it on the existing bottom, you have to have a 20,000 pair forecast. So this is the kind of information they're getting from the regions and the merchandisers that's telling them what they need in terms of a brief shoe. You know, they don't have the must-haves and must-be's. What the shoe needs to have and what it doesn't need to have, if it has to be super luxy, if it has to have like points of value, like the plastic piece I showed in the other shoe, you know, it has to have shiny things like you know, some people like shiny things. Just random brief things. That's a brief. We then take the briefs. So once you take a brief and you've done a design and you sketched out your design, you've agreed with your product manager that this is the direction that you want to go. You do a quick tech, which is pretty much just getting the shoe out the door. So you can have like just a drawing of it. You tell exactly what type of you don't tell exactly what material it is. You just say like it's leather, it's synthetic, it's mesh. You do just like a quick spec sheet on it, and you get it out the door to development, and they get the pullover started. And the pullover is like, so you do the quick tech and you get something like this back, which is like kind of gross, but you kind of get the idea of what it's going to be. So the materials aren't exactly right. You're going to go back and pick way better materials than this or not. But this is what you get back after a quick tech. I mean, you do the measurements, the toe width, the toe length, all that stuff. The more information you have, the better the shoes will come out. You also get started with blueprint drawings, which is probably the toughest part about my job. It's like, it's just the most tedious thing possible because you really have to take nothing and imagine what the heights of things are going to be, what the widths of things are going to be. Like I have to imagine how thick this wall is going to be and put it on a tech drawing on the bottom, and then it's just tough to imagine all these things, you know. This is one of the tougher things. You got to pick the textures. You got to pick how it's going to be built. I mean, development will help you with those things, but if you have an idea of what you have, like for example with the kamikaze development, it had a hex piece in here, so you have to pick how big it's going to be, how it's going to fit in there, how thick the midsole is going to be, so you don't feel the ground when you don't feel too much. Without getting, you want to keep it low, but not too thin because you'll feel everything on the ground. So all these things you do on a quick tech blueprint drawing like this. After that, you have 50% design review, which we just had last week. So this is, once again, the design directors and the heads of footwear come back into the room, but this time they bring in marketing, which is the product managers and whatnot. And they have a bigger discussion of what they really need in line. So, for example, if you have 12 boots, do you really need 12 boots? Stuff like that, they'll point out, and stuff will get dropped from the line, or colors may change, and just a bunch of different stuff that have 50%. Sometimes everything will be turned over on its side, and everything will just have to start over, which is terrible. That happens too. After 50%, so everybody's agreed on everything. You have to do blueprint confirmation. So once you send that tech drawing of the last tech drawing show that I make, Asia sends back something like this with specific drawings of every angle and every thickness and every little nuance of the shoe. So some that quality image, but everything's on here. Then you go back and you make revisions to their drawing until it's right. And when they send this drawing back, they also send a 3D file back, and we have 3D parts made in our rapid prototype machine downstairs in our building. So you can actually get a 3D view of what your focus actually looks like. So, and then once you get this stuff, what I do is I like to tape things up. So like I'll take whatever the pullover is and I'll tape it up and then draw on top of it and then just like cut slices out of it to see how far the line has to move and whatnot like that. That's like a really old technique actually. Like one of my co-workers who's been in the industry for a minute, he taught me how to do that. That's just the easiest way to do it for me. a lot of people can just do it right offhand, just like not even do any tape up or anything, just do it right on the blueprint, which is pretty difficult to me, but some people do it like that. Then you do the same thing with the upper. So you may not have the upper exactly how you want to. So this may be the second pullover of this one that you got back earlier from the quick tech. You get this one back next, so the shapes are better. So now you go back and you pick all your materials. So your materials have to be pretty buttoned up by this certain deadline. So it's called 100% is the deadline. But the whole point of the bottom confirmation and the material and color confirmation is that we go to Asia and they're going to have these things done sitting on the table for you when you get there. But in order for them to get it done, they have to have everything done from your end at a certain point in time. So you also have material color confirmation, which is we have a library of materials at Reebok. A lot of times we end up using the same things because prices have really jumped. Like prices are terrible. Like leather prices are so bad. That's why Nike's making all those plastic shoes, right? Because they have to figure out ways to make shoes cheaper, and which is another reason the prices are getting jacked up too, because they can't make these things like they used to because all the prices are going up. So you're about to start seeing some crazy price, like $300 shoes in the next year, which is insane to me. But I'm glad I'm not 13 anymore. So, hey, I have money. But and I work for a shoe. So then 100% design handoff is when we put all this stuff into our systems. Development sends it over to Asia. Everything gets over to them. They start making first prototypes for us when we get there. Then like 2 weeks later, we go over to Asia, and you'll have things like this where they'll have finished shoes, or they'll have, if your shoe wasn't, because the kamikaze actually started really late. We just had a pullover done when we got to Asia for that one. But a lot of times the materials will be finished, and you'll see them, and you can make quick changes in Asia. So if you make a change to a pattern in Asia, they can get it back to you within a day. So that's why we go to Asia, to get stuff done and get it right then. So yeah, for example, that's some of the shoes are finished. But it's really cool just to see like the shoes being made. It's like one of the dopest things. Like that's crazy. And no, the factories are not switched out, so just let it. They're actually really cool. Because they gotta keep our shoes clean, so we can't be dirty. But so yeah, that's what we do in Asia. We get over there, make revisions to patterns, materials, whatever else. And we also get to go to like random cities, which is pretty. It's probably one of the best perks about being at Reebok, or probably any company, is that I've been to Hong Kong twice. It's like crazy. I don't know if anybody watches Dragon Ball Z. It's like Dragon Ball Z, but for real. It's okay. And then we just went to Shanghai this past year, which was crazy. So I missed my flight back, which was crazier. And then so this is Vietnam. So for lifestyle, our factories are in Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh City. Well, they're not Ho Chi Minh City, but they're outside of Ho Chi Minh. We stay in Ho Chi Minh. This is Ho Chi Minh. It's like moped, freaking, I don't know what it is. It's like moped swamp fest. And there's no like traffic rules, so like everybody's just like nobody stops. Only cars stop for lights. So mopeds and people just keep going. And it's actually easier if you're walking across the street just to go, like without stopping, because if you stop, you're gonna get hit. Because they'll go around you because it's so many it's just you're probably. But every time I go, it's like more modern. Actually, the hotel we stayed in this time, so I came out of the hotel going to get something to eat, and I look, and there's a Beamer going up. I'm like, and I look, and it's Tyler Banks. Tyler Banks again? And she has to look back on the only other black dude. I'm like, so she looked at me. So that's my fiance. I stand in the back. So yeah, No, but it's good. Every time we go, it gets more modern. Vietnam's really nice. And we have designers actually stay there and sign up for like 3-year tours. So they'll stay there and just like finish off stuff that we can't do. So we only go twice a year. And they'll just be there to, do stuff firsthand, which is pretty neat too. My boy just came back recently from Vietnam for 3 years. Yeah, so that's Vietnam too. We have a good time because it's all expense paid and eat like cakes and things. This was Zhuhai. So Zhuhai is where our basketball factory is, and that's why I went back and did the Rush John Wall shoot this past month. Yeah, it was a good time. This is like, that's probably the best thing is you get to travel the world. Then other people get to go. So once you're out there, they're like, all right, just sign up for a trip after your development trip, and you just go on your way back to the States. So like, you go to Vietnam, and then you're like, okay, I want to go to Shanghai for a week. You go from Shanghai for a week. Just walk around taking pictures and getting inspiration, everything for the next season. People go everywhere. Like, of course, Adi's in Germany. We have a Barcelona office. People go to France. Yeah, they go everywhere. But yeah, that's pretty much the basis of what I do at Reebok. Oh, I also play basketball for an hour and a half every day at lunch. So, then I come back to my desk and eat, and listen to music, draw shoes, and watch movies. But we get to make cool shoes, I guess. So yeah, that is that's the basis of my job and what I've done so far. Are there any questions?
So with the 25% design review and 50%, so you said like 25% everybody has their ideas up.
Yeah.
If yours doesn't get picked, does that mean that you're like done with the project, you're not working on it at all for the rest of the?
I mean, people always bring stuff out. And I've had shoes that have been in all my 25% reviews just because I like them that much. Or even tweak them, just to like tweak them to make them better and then resubmit them. But that means that, and 25% isn't final either. If your design director doesn't like something, but the marketing people do, or the product managers do, it'll still get through. Like, it's kind of there's a weird dynamic of all of these. There's like design, product managing, which we call marketing and development. So there's these 3 entities that have to work together to make the shoe come together. But everybody's got their own ideas of what something should be. But then you have marketing who knows the numbers that they need for a certain project, or what they need in terms of what it needs to look like. But if design doesn't like it, it kind of doesn't matter if they want it like that. It works both ways, because sometimes it's the opposite, where design wants this done, so it's going to get made. You know what I mean? So it doesn't mean it's over. It just means you might have to take another avenue, which is a way. A lot of times, a lot of my projects have worked like that, because like I showed you the briefs and everything. A lot of my projects comes from things that I did proactively. So like all that stuff I showed you as an apprentice that would sit on the walls. And marketing would come up and be like, oh yeah, we like that, we need that. That's how the kamikaze got made. Like the story about behind the kamikaze is that so I was an apprentice. I'll tell you how. So Swizz came in before we signed him. Right?
That's Swizz Beats, right?
Yeah, Swizz Beats came in before we signed him. Swizz came in before the scene. Swizz came in before we signed him, and he was just walking around, just showing around the building. And my product manager brought him up and introduced him to me. And I had the kamikaze and the rest of the hex stuff up on the wall. He's like, "Yo, that's hot." And that was the end of it. Like, it didn't get in line. It didn't go nowhere. It just sat on the wall for forever. And then my product manager came back like halfway through the season when we were in Asia and was like, "Yo, we need to do the kamikaze." We're like, all right. So I did the kamikaze. We started taking out. That's why I had that picture of while we were in Asia. It was still just a pullover, which was it's this one. So this is all they had when we got there. Because I had just started. It's like the first pullover of it. It actually had side straps on it. And so we did the shoe. We finished it. My product manager actually had to fly back out to Asia to pick up the shoe, just to pick it up, like, because they couldn't send it because it could get stuck in customs and whatnot. So we flew to Asia, hand carried the kamikaze colorways back to the States for this meeting. And that's when Swiss saw him at the meeting. He hadn't seen him since we hadn't even signed him. This was like 3 months after he saw the picture of it. He saw it sit on the wall. I was like, yo, I want to wear these. So then I had one half pair at the meeting. So then my boy had to run back to the office, come back with the other half pair, and then he started tweeting all that. That's when all the madness happened. That was that day. And I was actually sitting in class because I was getting my MBA at Boston University. And I was sitting in class and I was just like looking at all this Twitter stuff. Just happened. And it just freaking flew up. So I finally got my, it was crazy, man. Because it's hard to get a shoe like that for, like, especially with reading. Our brand equity isn't as good as it needs to be right now. So, like, you know, it is what everybody knows. It's not a secret. But it's hard to do something like that. Not only for a brand with low brand equity, but a lifestyle part of the brand. Like with basketball, it's easier to do something like that because you have athletes connected to it and stuff like that. But it was just like, that's pretty dope to have that happen. Yeah, that was a story behind the kamikaze. Sweet. No, he's cool. I sat with him. I sat with him more now. I was just there in New York like a couple weeks ago, but we were working on some Keith Haring stuff. He's a busy dude. He's all over the place. But he's good. He's a good brand ambassador. You know, he's a good dude. Yeah.
As a basketball player, what was your favorite basketball shoe, and has that changed since you work for Reebok now?
My favorite basketball. No, I can see it.
I guess when you played.
My favorite basketball shoe.
Or now.
Basketball shoe? Just basketball, or like shoe in general?
You can answer both if you want.
Alright, I'll do both. My favorite shoe to play in was the Ratchet 2K4. That was my favorite shoe to play in. My favorite shoe of all time is Jordan 13. But the question is my third favorite shoe, which is Reebok. Before I even came to Reebok, it was my third favorite shoe. Which it started all this madness anyway for me. So, but no, yeah, the Karachi 2K4 is my favorite basketball shoe. And man, before I was at Reebok, I got so many shoes and boxes. It's ridiculous. Like I was a snake bag since I don't know when. I actually said something. But I was so bad that I was like, you have to get this tape. It was so I used to, when I was little, I used to like get the new Jordans, and then something would happen to them, like something little would happen, like a little rip or something, and I'd take them back and get the new color every time. So yeah, got everything good. But yeah, no, I loved sneakers for a while. Yeah.
So like before you worked for Reebok, before like being in the industry, like how can you say like what are the main differences being on this side of the fence, just like being a sneaker collector or whatever, and making sneakers?
It's some the worst part is that it loses all the like glitz and glamour and smoke and mirrors. Like a lot of stuff you talked about wasn't really as real as you think it is. Like the Nike stuff. There was a good plan behind it, but really what it's actually, the smoke and mirrors are, there's just a lot of smoke and mirrors, man. That's all there is to it. And when it loses that, you're like, oh, man. It was so magical before. You know, you used to wait in line for shoes, like, oh, these are the so-and-so. And then you realize that it's just a $10 shoe they made in Vietnam. You're like, oh. That's it. But on the other end, you get to, I get to see my stuff on the shelf and people wear it. That's like the craziest thing when you see somebody wearing your shoes. Like, and now I have a John Wall shoe, which is like, I've been wanting that for my whole life, that shoe on the basketball player. That's like one of the best feelings in terms of having your dream job and doing something, like, and doing exactly, like, nothing really tops that. But yeah, the worst part is like, all the background behind things and like, how things really work. And, like, it just loses a little bit, but it's just shoes. That's what everybody gotta keep that in mind. Like, when people getting killed for Jordans and stuff, like, keep it in mind. It's just shoes. Like, it's just shoes. We're not rocket scientists. But it is fun though, and you can make somebody happy with some shoes. So, yeah, that's really cool. Question.
you design shoes, is it like, I guess, what would be the ratio of how it looks to function? Do you come up with, like a design feature of the shoe, and that specific, what shoe's supposed to do would be first?
Okay, so as you saw, my background is in ID, so which is kind of helped me in a lot of ways, but at the same time, it hurts me because a lot of people I work with are from ID. So like, Dylan was right in terms of having function to it, but the way at least when I started, the way all I want to do was make cool looking shoes. Because I know how, at least especially with women, I've been in this women's shoe industry and their shoes hurt like I don't know, like, and they wear them all the time. Y'all wear them all the time. I be wearing them all the time. She wears craziness. But and then tell me her feet hurt. I'm like, that's super interesting. But no, so like in the beginning, it was all about. It wasn't all about design, but I like started there. Like I literally start with like a shape. Like I'll find a good shape. Let's see if I can do that. So like, I still do it like this, but I usually have a function in mind now. But at least with lifestyle, it was more like, you don't have to do anything crazy because you're just walking around in it most of the time. So, like for the kamikaze, for example, like I just did a cool looking shoe. That was like my whole point of it. I wasn't trying to fix the world, or, save anybody's feet really. But it was like, now you look back at it, because I've only been there in the industry for 2.5 years. So I'm only 25, I'm almost like, yeah. But it's like, now that I'm in basketball, and with the John Wall shoe, yeah, you do think about what, especially with me, since I played basketball in my life, it was like, I know exactly what I like, exactly what I want to feel when I'm moving a certain way. So I would say with that, it's, you have those in the back of your mind, but I still think I'm more of I gotta make it look good, but now I just think more about the function. You know what I mean? Because especially for us, it's like we have to get our stuff sitting on the shelf. Somebody's gotta pick it up first. Especially with Reebok, we gotta get somebody to pick the shoe up before anything else, before they even try it on. So it better look great. It better look better, if not on par, or if not better than all the rest of these shoes with the brands that have more equity in them. So it's like there's a happy medium between these things. Like a lot of people don't think there is, but I think I can design that way.
When you were working for the women's footwear brand, what was the design process like there compared to
I feel like it was easier. This was really bad. It was like there's so many women's, you got another book? Yeah. In the women's industry, there's so many brands, and everyone's copying off of everyone. So there's like, really, these small brands would just go to like fashion shows and get like, my boss's boss used to just go to the certain areas in the world and send back FedEx shoes and be like, I want this heel from this shoe, on our shoe, but with the strap, something like that. It just wasn't as fun. It was like, because especially I worked for the private label, which was not fun. If I worked for like Jessica Simpson or something like that, it probably would have been better. But it was like, for that, the process was pretty simple because we use the same elast is the thing that the shoe's built on. I didn't bring it with it like these heavy foot-shaped blue things. So with athletic shoes, you have a bunch of different lasts. With a lot of women's shoes, it was like in line, we used a lot of the same last over and over again. So it wasn't as difficult, it wasn't as fun, but it makes more money because they make more money. If you're not Nike, Adidas, Reebok in athletics, then you're not making a lot of money. Or Under Armour, you're not making a lot of money. But there's so many women's brands that make a lot of money that it's easier for them to pay better. But, so, yeah.
I mean, I guess in general, like, what tips or like some things that you've learned that you would like advise to people who want to use like future football?
Footwear designers? I would say, first off, first and foremost, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Like, that's just me though. I mean, maybe not. Maybe that's that. Because I know my large goal is to be financially free. That's been my goal for a minute. So like to be financially free, you have to get to a certain point financially. You're not going to get there with footwear unless you have your own company. So you have to learn other things. So just don't learn just design. There's people that just know design, but they're not thinking about all the logistics of it or the business end of it. So even in our company, there might be a designer that's just thinking about this one thing, but not thinking about how much it costs. So they're just like, yo, we have to get this done. We have to, like, yo, we're not making money off of it. Why would we do it like that? You know what I mean? So I think would not put all your eggs in one basket. Don't be so secretive with your stuff. To me, it's like let it out there. Let people see what you're doing. So that's one thing I do. It was really weird. Like we have on our desk. We have like walls on our desk. I took my wall off. Like, I need to see everybody. Everybody need to see where I'm at, what I'm doing. Like, you know what I mean? Just be open about it. You're working for the same company first off. If you're in the office, it's like, why are we hiding things from you? Working for the same company? But and just have fun. Like it's just shoes. Like have fun. If you're doing shoes, you just have fun with it. What would you like to wear? What would you like to see somebody wear? You know, think about it. And really a lot of things depend on what category you're in too. Just think about how you need to go about starting design. Like I said, with lifestyle is more about we need to make a shoe that looks good first. You know what I mean? But when you go to basketball, it's like, oh, this shoe has to work for John Wall. Like, you know what I mean? So just little things like that. Anything else?
So for kamikaze specifically, I know you said you just wanted a cool shoe, but in terms of like I don't know, like the shape and the silhouette, like what inspired you in terms of like designing that shoe in the first place?
So this shoe. So when I got there, I was like, yo, why haven't we brought back the kamikaze 2? Why haven't we brought back the Shacknosis? Why haven't we brought back the Answer 4? All these shoes that I liked a whole lot. They're like, oh, we can't. Their excuse then was we can't afford to open the tooling back up because you have to sell a certain amount. Remember before that's about $20,000. So to open the top and the bottom, you have to have 50,000 forecast, which is even bigger than the 20,000 you just need for the top. So when I got there, I was like, why don't we brought all that back? Like, it's cost you. It's not logistically possible for us right now. So I was like, well, I'll make some new ones. And because that was the stuff that I liked. The Reebok stuff that I liked was all the in-your-face stuff, like all that stuff from that era, all the stuff that like when you saw it, it was like maybe it was too big, it looked too bulky or something sometimes, or maybe it was just like crazy shapes that you looked at and you stopped. It was like in your face. Smack your mama. That's stuff that I like. So I was like, yo, I'm gonna make stuff like that. And the other thing was, I don't like branding. So like, if you look on my website and you look at all my shoes, or if you look at all my shoes that I probably showed you, there's no branding anywhere. Like, I don't like to use a lot of branding on the corner of my shoes. I like the design to speak before the brand does. And it makes sense right now. To me, the whole thing would be to make the consumer like your brand before you force your brand on the consumer. So my whole thing was like, how can I do that? And a way to get away with not putting branding on was to do a shoe that kind of resembled something else that's in your archive. So I would literally go back and like, the kamikaze had the lightning bolt. It don't look like this, but it's still, I could talk through that. Like, this is the kamikaze 3. It's got the hex, like the question. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. You can talk through it. And that kind of I used those elements as my branding. So that was the whole point around this. And this actually wasn't the first one. The first one I did was, no. This was the first one I did. I did this one, then I did a new question. Then I did a new, other blast. And then I did a bunch of hex stuff. But all of it was based off the same things. Because we're known for, like in the early 90s, we were known for that bold stuff that I think is still relevant today. And like, everyone knows that this is Reebok now. You know what I mean? We just did the same thing that we used to do today. Like when you saw a shoe, you knew it was Reebok. So that was the whole basis behind it. Anything else? Go ahead, what's your number?
What's the point behind that one logo? I think it's like a classic logo, the little flower looking thing.
Oh, the Starcrest?
I always wanted to get that. You know, like the story behind it.
This one?
Yeah.
This one, I don't know what the story is.
Oh,
I think it was no, you think so you know the British flag? If you look at the British flag, it has like triangles because of all the lines. I think that's where it came from. I could be completely lying to you right now. I think that's where it came from. But because usually when we have a Starcrest, there's usually not the flag. Union Jack. Who said that? Score. Union Jack. See, I don't know. My brain didn't know. No, go too far. But yeah. So usually Union Jack. It's just been like it's been the classic. It's part of the classic branding for forever. Yeah, this is that shoe that the Omni run. The other problem with a lot of these shoes, especially with us, like we'll do a shoe and the first season materials will be like normal, safe materials, and you'll get to do something dope the next season. But because they don't believe they're going to sell enough the next season, then the dope materials will get dropped. They're like, I should have done dope materials first, but you wanted safe materials. Like, this would have sold more than safe. So like, there's a lot of dynamics around all this stuff. But then at the end of the day, you just gotta look like it's just shoes. So I'm playing drawing shoes and playing basketball. It's like, yeah, story behind that.
Yeah, I just wondering, like if you sell sneakers, like, there are free feedback maybe like in the sneaker sites.
Oh yeah, it's funny because a lot of people don't know actual sneaker history, so they'll be like, "Oh, that looks like this," and like, "You idiot, no, it doesn't. That shoe came out after that came. Like, oh, that looks like a lot of our. This price I have because a lot of the shoes that I wanted to bring back about to come back now finally, sneaker. So like the kamikaze that put up Jordan, the real kamikaze too. Like, what are you talking? But it was when I first got there, I looked at it a lot more when my shoes started coming out because I wanted to see what people were saying about it. And then with the kamikaze, I got a bunch of good feedback, so I was like, all right, yeah. And then you have a shoe that doesn't do so good. You're like, hey, so I've had everybody been on nicekicks.com. So on Nice Kicks, they had the good, the bad, the ugly. I had the good for the kamikaze, then I did the chikaze, which is the women's version, which I thought I liked better than the kamikaze, but whatever. And it got the ugly. So I've had both. You just gotta whatever, man. It's my shoe. I like it. She wears it. Everybody has their own opinion, but you can look past the little. Because a lot of people just don't know. They're just talking. But at the same time, when people start giving you good feedback, that's a good sign too. Especially with us, like you get good feedback. Nike's gonna get good feedback. Jordan gonna get good feedback just because of the brand. But if you get good feedback for certain brands, it's a good sign. I think we're in a better place today than we were when I first got there.
You keep mentioning that you want to start with a company.
Yeah.
And how as a designer do you plan on doing that? Like going from working from Reebok and like making your design, which now technically is Reebok's, and making it your own and starting your own company.
Well, that was more of my growing up desire or dream, I guess. But like the more I've seen it, I'd rather make money doing something else, like real estate stuff or whatever else I'm doing. And do shoes for fun. Like literally, I could work at Reebok for the rest of my life if I was financially free and I wasn't depending on Reebok for my bills. Like that's cool with me because I'll have a great time every day playing basketball, enjoying shoes. But I need something I don't have to worry about. If I had to quit one day, I could walk out. I need something that's gonna be I'm good. You know what I mean? So it's less. And then at that point, if you get to a point like that, that's when you do a shoe business to me. Because there's a lot that goes into this. Like so you have all of these toolings. So each one of the molds for this costs like $3,000, right? So you have 14 sizes of one size ring of $3,000, right? then you have to have, that's just one run. So the line doesn't just have one size run, they have a bunch of those 14 sizes because the factory is huge, so they can't just wait on the same last every time. So this is like, there's a whole lot of money that goes into building shoes. So that's like when you see small sneaker companies come up, they'll usually have the same bottom for like a bunch of seasons because they're paying off the tooling. So like, and then with like vulcanized super and stuff, that's just a tape, so they don't have to pay for tooling. So they're not paying for the whole bottom mold, they're paying just for the tape, and the tape doesn't really change. So like, it's just a lot of like overhead that you gotta pay for, and you gotta pay, and you gotta think of all the prices that are rising right now, because ideally my ideal situation would have be, what I really want to do is like get an old Walmart, like a big box store that's just like sitting somewhere with the carpet, and build a small factory in there. Like New Balance has a small factory in the Maine, but that would be the ideal situation. But to get to that point, you just gotta be in a big financial position, or have some good people backing you. So like, I'm trying to, I'm in contact with a bunch of these fashion stores. But yeah, you just gotta be in a good position to be in the right spot to do something like that.
Oh, do you have any cool like celebrity stories in terms of like endorsements or like Reebok?
We had so I went to we did so first I went to the project when Swizz announced his partnership, and then we had a Swizz party. Anyway, that was just maybe I shouldn't say that. It was just so we had a hotel party first. We were taking shots of Patron, and everything. And it was so bad. And then we had to go to the show. We had a show, so we went to the show, and I was just like, so not good. But I don't get sick with it, but it was bad. But the whole point of this was that I didn't go to sleep, and then I had a flight at like 7 o'clock in the morning. It was so bad. Oh, it was so bad. Yo, I've never been so. Oh, I feel like I was like, yo, just the plane should just fall out of the sky. Just in because I was like, this is just it was so bad. There's that. The other one was the one where Swizz came in, which was kind of like when you say that one was dope, and he was playing Kamikaze, and it was just like a drawing, and that was like, this guy down here, this is like the first drawing. Originally I had like DMX in it, but I love DMX, we're just coming back too, but he saw that was a pretty cool story where he saw it and said that's dope. And that was an early one too, we probably saw the one after that, but still that was pretty cool. And then the whole thing that happened after that, where he picked it out and tweeted and all that. What else? I was just there in New York the other day, and I was doing stuff with him. He had a MTV, first he had a Benz bus, which was like crazy recliners everywhere and big TVs and everything. We were just in there just chilling, just went to eat. And then he had to go to MTV to speak there. And then he had to go to a show, an Estelle show after that. So I'm just riding around this bus all day with Swizz Beats. And I'm sitting there, he gets sick all of a sudden because he's jet lagged from like flying around all over the world like a crazy person. And I'm just sitting there. And then all of a sudden, John Legend gets in the band, and then Estelle's there. I'm like, what is? It's just like a bunch of, I can't like get like, because I'm the only one in there that hasn't met anybody. Because I'm the only one that's like starstruck like a little bit. I'm like, yeah, what's up, man? We were talking, and they were talking about like music industry stuff. So I'm like throwing my little 2 cents in there, like, yeah, why don't you just, yeah. But that was fun. We played basketball at Reebok at lunch. Dominique Wilkins played with us one day. That was fun. He played like in a full sweatsuit. It was fun. But he's like still really competitive, so we were like smashing his team. So he just got super pissed off and just started shooting everything, but he was missing everything. So, but then he won, so he can still talk. That was good. Played Doug Flutie. Played John Wall. Iverson. Yeah. That's pretty much it. Anything else? Fully knowledgeable about it.
Very exciting.